This is advice to every business, is if you go and engage a digital marketer and they give you an off-the-shelf price or a package, that's the biggest red flag, because those agencies are just out there to line their own pockets rather than actually give you a strategy that's going to actually return on investment.
Yeah.
If there's one human that's had the greatest impact on my life, professional life, and personally as an adult, it would absolutely be Kerwin. Yeah.
Did you have a chance to let him know that?
Yeah, many times. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Married at First Sight is not a show about love. It's a show about drama that's masked in the veil of love, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is actually the first time I've spoken about maths on a podcast.
Really?
I refuse to do any interviews or anything after that. Yeah.
Well, mate, the missus away for the weekend. You can come back at mine if you want.
We watch maths together, do each other's hair. There's a thing called toxic positivity, which I learnt about recently, because I'm like, why is this person pissing me off with You are not who they think you are. You are who you think that they think that you are. You know, we all turn up as different versions of ourselves based on who we surround ourselves with. And then when you have a level of awareness in and around that, you start to play at a different level, a different game.
Favourite cheap meal?
Macca's.
Hey, Macca's?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about
Let's connect.
Let's go. We are here at the Connect podcast, and we got an extra special guest today. And this particular guest has been recognised around Australia for multiple reasons, for incredible reasons. But today we're going to talk about business, and we're going to talk about marketing. We have Dan Hunjas from Edge Marketing. He's up in Brisbane. He's created a successful marketing company. He's run it for many, many, many years. The guy's a wealth of knowledge, and he's also dabbled in reality TV with Married at First Sight on season 10. So, Dan, welcome to the show, mate. We're really excited to jump into this. I have a lot of questions, and it's going to be a good time.
Great to be here, guys. Great to be in Sydney again.
Welcome, mate.
Yep, got the Sydney welcome with the traffic.
The M5.
Yeah, just a clean 2-hour run that you should usually only take about half an hour.
That's it.
The time just kept ticking. It was like, I'll be there 3:15, 3:30.
We knew it was going to happen.
We knew, man.
We should have warned you. It was our fault, if anything.
Sucker.
Well, welcome to the show, Dan.
Thanks, guys.
Mate, let's take it back from the start. Who is Dan Hunjas? Where did he all start? What was the childhood like? What was the upbringing like? How did it all turn into who Dan Hunjas is today?
Wow, mate. We've got to go back a few years for that now. Mate, I was born in Brizzy and did my primary school down there. And then parents moved us up to a little regional seaside town in Queensland called Hervey Bay, where I did all of my high school. And it was a really great place to grow up on the water in and around Fraser Island, and doing all the things that you do in regional towns, and playing a bit of footy up there and that kind of thing. And then I moved back down to Brizzy for university. I actually studied applied science, majoring in forensics and biotechnology. And I took a year off, deferred my last year, and never went back. And then fell into my marketing career, which has just been absolutely incredible. I feel like I've been strapped to a rocket ship on that one. So it's been great.
Still got the scientist analogy.
Yeah, well, kind of different roles. Yeah, like, why one from the other? Like,
oh, mate, listen. I think when you're a kid, a teenager in particular, and you're in those later years of schooling, there's a lot of pressure from the guidance counselors and your family. You know, what are you going to do with your career? I mean, how can you really know as a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old? And for me, I was great at science, and so maths, physics, biology, chemistry, all that good marks. So I thought I'll do that. Actually, I my first choice was to be a PE teacher, but I ended up with an OP score that was just one higher than what I was allowed to get in. So I thought, well, I'll do applied science, and then I might step across, and that's sort of part of it. But I actually had to repeat year 11.
Yeah. Wow.
If you want to talk about like where the entrepreneurial sort of spirit really started from for me, it started at a young age. I've always been this guy that was attracted to, freedom and what that looks like. And I recognized very early on that one of the tools that you need for freedom is money, right? And where do you get that from? And so I had a very young, early, appreciation for money. And when I was old enough, I went and started door knocking the local businesses to get a little part-time job when I was at school. And one part-time job turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4, turned into 5. I had 5 part-time jobs all at once in one of those little neighborhood, shopping centers where, I had the butcher, the bakery, the fruit shop, the little takeaway shop, and I was sweeping and cleaning up the hairdressers as well. That moved in at one point in time, but it left no time for any kind of homework or study. So I actually failed year 11, and I was really nervous to go back and tell my parents what the grades on my report card. So before I did that, I actually went to the guidance counsellors, organised with the school to repeat year 11, and said, here's my report card, but here's also a solution. I'm going to repeat. I'm going to reduce the amount of work that I'm doing, and I'm going to knuckle down and get this done, because one thing my parents taught me is that, you need a really good education if you're going to do anything in life. And there's various types of education, from, the traditional book smart version to the street smart as well. And I think to be successful, you've got to have a good combination of both.
Yeah. Definitely got to have both, I think.
Yeah. That's a bit of a transition. Well, it's pretty mature of a person in year 11 to put his hand up and say, hey, I stuffed up, but this is my solution. So I was
just a bit scared of the ramifications. I wanted to make sure I had something organised first, and I didn't really think too much about it at the time. But you're right. It's for a young teenager to be able to have that kind of foresight and vision is something I look back and I'm quite proud of.
But did you have like a upbringing from a financial point of view was hard, or you just wanted more money?
No, we lived a pretty modest life.
Yep.
We didn't have a great deal of money, but we never went short either. So it really wasn't those things. I think I just had this real passion for life. Really get out there and experience all the things that you sort of hear about and you see on TV, and do a lot of travel and whatnot. And I just knew that to be able to do that, you need a good career or a good job behind you, and some good paychecks rolling in.
Yeah.
Did your parents come from business?
No. Dad's a builder by trade.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My mum, she passed away really early. I was only 4 years old.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. She died unexpectedly, very suddenly in her sleep. And that day when we woke up, not only had I lost my mum, but Dad really, lost the love of his life. And I found it quite difficult to be able to look after two young boys, myself and my younger brother. I was 4. My brother was only 6 months at the time. So we got shipped off from Brisbane up to Townsville to go and live with my grandparents while Dad sort of collected his life together, and a year later come and picked us back up. Wow. But I sort of went through that trauma of being orphaned. Well, Dad was still there, but he wasn't there. You don't really understand.
Yeah, he wasn't prepared to be a full-time dad when looking after you, working, doing all that.
When he was only in his early to mid-20s as well. Yeah. So you can imagine, losing the love of your life, your wife, and then, having 2 young boys to raise at the same time whilst dealing with your own grief and your own trauma. So he did what was best for us boys, and we had very loving grandparents that I recognised, but I didn't really, know, because I was Brisbane, they were Townsville. You see them a couple of times a year. And when you look back to, where did those first signs of leadership come from in my life, and, looking after people and whatnot, I think it really came down to that moment. Those, because the only thing that was familiar to me in my life at that point in time was my little brother. Yeah. And I felt quite vulnerable, quite scared, quite uncertain. But the only certainty that I had, the only bit of familiarization that I had was him. And we're tight.
Yeah.
Still to this day.
Oh, mate, absolutely. Yeah, 100%, man.
And what about the relationship with your dad? Did you when he did come pick you up, was that a good relationship?
Absolutely. Oh, man, I remember that day vividly when Dad turned back up, because back in those days, there's no internet, there's no FaceTiming, there's nothing. No, it was the call, the STD calls on a Sunday night after 6 p.m., for the cheaper rates. Yeah. And that's it. It was just that familiar voice on the end of the phone. I didn't really understand it. So when Dad came back to pick us up, like he kept promising, but you don't really know or don't really understand, to see him again is a pretty special feeling. It's something that I absolutely remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah, well, take us on that journey. Like, how old were you when Dad sort of come back into the picture?
So I was 4 when Mum passed away. So it was 5. So basically he picked me back up, and I remember starting grade 1 back in Brisbane.
Yeah, well,
yeah, okay.
So then, growing up, obviously you and your brother, you have a tight relationship all your life, or sort of, is it typical brothers, fighting and doing the thing? I'm interested to know what that journey was like.
Oh, mate, I think just like any brothers, there's only 3 years difference really between us. So, we had our fair share of fisticuffs and arguments and whatnot. But I mean, it was one of those things where we never held any grudges. Once it was done and dusted, we picked up where we left back off, and, Hey, yeah,
yeah,
mate, absolutely, yeah, big time, and you need a guy at the other end of the cricket pitch in the backyard to bowl to you or to bat, and a bit of a kick around as well. So
I feel like when you go through something like that as well, builds like a bond together. Like it's just that unforespoken bond that you share together through that hardship. Even though you're quite young.
Yeah,
you just got through a time that's probably tough, for most people.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. And I look back on what we went through then, and whilst some of the experiences that I had as a young kid growing up, I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy with some other things. I'm grateful for the lessons and the things that it had taught me as well. From like I said, a leadership perspective, being a protector, which you carry into your adulthood. And especially in leadership. Leadership's not just in business, it's life, it's in friendship, it's all around us.
Yeah.
So, it's like, okay, am I the victim or am I the beneficiary? And it's the meaning attachment that I think is something that really does change the outcome of your life.
Yeah.
Mate, fast forwarding to the future. Did you know you wanted to go into business? Did you know you wanted to start your own marketing company? How did that play out?
As a teenager, no, not really. I think I was just like looking to find my feet. And I think I just got to the point where I'd worked a few jobs and I was like, I really want to be the master of my own destiny. I just don't want to leave it in the hands of others. So there's a saying where I was young enough and stupid enough to know everything. And that's how I sort of jumped into business with a level of naivety, but also a lot of belief at the same time. I started my company Edge when I was only 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
In a time when marketing landscape's different, right? Like,
huge, mate, huge. Yeah. So back then, if you think back to 2002 when I started my company, there was no such thing as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube,
no TikTok,
LinkedIn. No, yeah, exactly right.
Different digital.
Huge, mate, huge. Yahoo was still the number one search engine in Australia, and here I was knocking on doors trying to convince businesses that they need this thing called a website.
Yeah.
When they'd spend all their money on Yellow Pages advertising for the year and come back and see them next year. So, being in digital marketing, I haven't just jumped into the digital marketing bandwagon. I've been an integral part of digital marketing's evolution in Australia.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So was it digital marketing from the start or was it overall marketing you were doing?
Overall marketing, yeah. So we were TV, print, radio, direct mail, very much in the branding space, doing a lot of print design and that kind of thing. So
because the .com bubble would have only happened a couple of years prior to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there was...
So internet was still kind of a new thing in terms of being able to showcase your business.
Absolutely. I think the internet back then was looked at a little bit like what crypto is now.
Yeah.
You're either excited about it and you're learning and you're jumping into it, or you're a little bit unsure because it's a little bit unregulated and it's a little bit of a cowboy industry.
Really, back then it was just the MSN chat days, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, big time. Those were the days, weren't they?
Yeah.
ASL.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So how did that transformation happen? 23 years in business. Edge Marketing is obviously a very, very successful business. You've scaled it pretty well. You've built up some great value in the business and great culture you have of seeing your videos and your online presence. And you were rated in the top 3% of marketing agencies in Australia. Is that right?
Yeah. So just recently, we were awarded by Google the Google Premier Partner status, which basically all of the paid campaigns that go into the Google platform, obviously they've got access to it. So and you need to be at a certain level of activity and spend, but it's not something that you can buy. Once you get to that point, then you get assessed based on all the different performance metrics that go into all of those campaigns from every digital agency in Australia. And we just got back the word only a couple of weeks ago that we've been awarded the Google Premier Partner Badge, top 3% in Australia. So
that's no joke. Like that's
we are
serious.
stoked about that.
Yeah, that's a serious.
Oh mate, I've got goosebumps there and just talking about it again. It really is because our agency is something like I said. We've been around for a long time, and I think just coming from a regional place where I started the company as well. So it's like, okay, well, how come you didn't get this thing like a little bit earlier? But, we've come from regional Australia where I built the company then, and I relocated it only 6 years ago to the Gold Coast. And it's really been over the last 6 years that I've been able to truly scale the business to a size where we've got a very strong national presence in Australia to be able to attract the type of clients that have the right size of budget and actually understand the investment in what digital marketing is all about. taking them on that journey. And here's the thing, our industry has got one of the lowest trust ratings in any industry in Australia. Only 5%, we found out in a recent study. It's a scary stat. It's a stat that I actually love because it allows us to sort of leverage that and go, well, these are the reasons why, but you can't be around for 23 years without doing a few things right. And now it's not just our opinion. We've actually got something that is factual, that is data driven as well. And data doesn't lie, right?
Well, you did say, I was just going to say, you did say it wasn't based on you spending with Google. It was based on the results as well. Yeah. So you paying what you paid for the advertising, but the results that come from it, which is what I think the biggest trust issue is that we all, like a lot of businesses are spending money on digital marketers, getting the world promised to them. And then how many people do we know that are just going from marketer to marketer?
Well, that was the question I was going to ask is why is the perception, that marketing agencies sort of don't do the right thing by people?
Oh, where do we start?
Okay. Everyone's an SEO expert. Everyone's a this expert.
Absolutely. Well, really, the barrier to entry to become a digital marketer is quite low. If you've got a phone and a computer, you can do a course online and call yourself a digital marketer. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, so you got the do-gooders as well that sit there that mean well, but they just don't have the resources, knowledge, or experience to be able to deliver at a high level. But then you've got the other side as well, which are the cowboys that literally just prey on the vulnerability of all the misinformation that they can actually spin on somebody. Fast talkers, overpromise, underdeliver, and then escalate, manage once they've brought that company on board. So every single conversation that we have with a new prospect, they've either been burnt or underwhelmed or a combination of both. And it's our job to convince them that we are a contender, not a pretender in the space. And I also think as well, there are a lot of people, a lot of agencies or digital marketers that present as an agency, but it's just one person and then they're offshoring everything overseas, and that comes at a massive cost.
Yeah. We know a lot of those.
Yeah. Is that the way forward for these marketing firms to outsource like that, or?
I don't believe so. I've tried it. I've tried it many times over many years because it makes sense from a financial perspective, right?
Trying to keep costs down.
Absolutely. But like I said, it comes at a significant price. And I'm finding that's just with the performance of campaigns. Everything that we do is in-house. Real officers, real people, real results. And that's really important to us. Yeah. And I think, there's a big difference between staff and talent. Staff just turn up for a paycheck, and that's very, very difficult to manage when they're overseas, but we're not interested in bringing in staff. We want pure talent, people that are there to serve at a higher level, to contribute to something that's bigger than themselves. And it's a really important thing from a values alignment perspective.
Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Yeah. Mate, what has the journey in business been like for you?
It's been
23 years will hold a lot of weight, and starting your business at 21 I can only imagine the challenges over the years and the wins and the losses and the ups and downs.
Mate, if you asked me this question maybe say 4 or 5 years ago, I'd give you a different answer. So maybe let's go back to that point. When I stepped out, I actually semi-retired at the age of 40. I was able to step fully away from my business, and I was burnt out by that point. I'd spent the best part of almost 20 years, 18 years, I think it was that point in time, just on the grind, hustling. For a lot of those years, I didn't have a business that I owned. I had a business that owned me, and we've all heard that story before. You create a job for yourself. And what I also found is people weren't dealing with Edge, the name on the building. They were dealing with Dan. If they didn't have access to Dan, then they didn't want to know about it. So, that people go, oh, must be cool, being your own boss. I'm like, no, I've got a lot more bosses than what you actually think.
Yeah. If you go overseas, people are waiting for you to come back.
Oh, mate, yeah.
You're not going on holiday for 6 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, a lot of the times when you get called to answer for some of these things, it's not like a nice, respectful talk. Sometimes clients can be quite brutal.
Especially to a marketer.
Oh, big time. Yeah. We're fortunate enough now where we don't have to deal with those kind of clients. We really do. When a client's interviewing us, we're also interviewing them as well to make sure that we've got a good value alignment as well at the same time. But then, scaling to the point where I was able then to step fully out of the business was amazing for me. I needed a break. I felt that, with that grind, and life just being so full on in the fast lane, having so much noise, I needed to be able to step away. As a saying, quiet the mind so the soul can speak. And we spoke earlier when we were off camera about, do we really want to be in our careers forever? And I questioned myself as well. I fell out of love with marketing and digital marketing. And I think it was because I was at that burnout stage. But being able to step back away, I was able to find that love and that passion again back for my industry, and coming back into the business full time about 6 months ago has been one of the most amazing experiences as well.
I think a lot of our viewers would resonate with that. They're going through the mundane of business, trying to hustle and grind, and you just feel like you're hitting the head against the wall all the time, and you get to that point where you actually start to not love the thing that you did love before, that you were passionate about.
Mate,
you lose the passion.
Every few weeks, I just think, should I just stop everything and just be a forklift driver?
I think it's on the back of the mind of every business owner is
something where I just don't have to think. I don't have to take the stresses. Man,
I thought about doing Uber.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Yeah.
Mate, we all have those moments, in the shower at the end of the night, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But, here's the thing. The irony is, we all get into business to have more time, more money, more freedom. And ironically, we have less time, less money, and absolutely zero freedom at all, because we get into business. We're very good at generally what we do, whether it's a trade or a service, and we go, hey, why am I doing this for somebody else? I should just do it for myself. But we have no experience in business. So like I said, we don't create a business. We create something that actually owns us. Yeah. And then it's about, and then where do you go from there? So
as you learn to be a business owner as you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all that, like the money, all the other hats, the accounting, the marketer. You have to learn how to do that unless you're outsourcing it to someone.
Yep, big time. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I give anyone when it comes to business is become a master of mindset. That's really, really important. Like, you can give two people the exact same business plan. One will do really well and one will fuck it up every which way to Sunday. And the biggest difference is, or the only difference is, the 6 inches between the ears, and that really just comes down to mindset. The other thing is aligning yourself with a great coach and having good mentors around you as well.
And when did you realize that?
I realized that probably about 10 years ago. I went to my first Tony Robbins event and became a firewalker at Unleash the Power Within. I came back from that event back into my own life, but it's like I've been given a new set of glasses with a new lens where I could see all of this stuff around me that I couldn't see prior. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, there's more to this world and more to this life than I knew at that point in time. Then I sort of got a little bit obsessive with that and started going down the rabbit hole of, professional and personal development.
Sometimes it's a little bit too much. There's some people that I'm just like, relax. It's a bit much.
Oh, mate, don't worry. I've met plenty of those as well. Yeah. Right? They're the kind of people on your social media where you got to hit the mute.
Yeah. They're just too positive, and you're like, you can't be like I understand it, and I hope it works for you, but it's a bit cringe.
Oh, there's a thing called toxic positivity, which I learned about recently, because I'm like, why is this person pissing me off with every single thing that I see? It's just like, go, you can do it. It's all about this. And I'm like, man, give it a rest, because life isn't like that either. You got to be real. You got to be relatable. What was I saying? I was told once, which is try not to become perfect because you'll relate to nobody. Right?
There's also got to be a level of authenticity to it. Absolutely. You know what I mean? We've got to be real and raw. Obviously, I'm in the fitness space too, so it requires me to be on that level. I've got members looking up, always
living that
asking
life.
I have to live at that level too, but I also have to be real and raw, if we make a mistake.
Because you're going to have the same temptations that everyone else has,
and
right?
I feel like they relate to that then.
Big time.
I think the ones that are constantly doing, it's a bit cringy, but there's a place, and when it resonates, it hit hard. So, you had this light bulb moment. Those are the gold nuggets that you get from going to these type of events and stuff like that.
Yeah, big time. And it was going down that rabbit hole that I actually came across a guy called Kerwin Rae. And I started working with Kerwin about 8 years ago, and we became quite close very, very quickly. And I ended up in partnership with Kerwin.
You got a Kerwin Rae vibe about you as well. Yeah.
Well,
the black shirt. Black shirt.
Well, thank you, mate. I really appreciate that, because he's one of the absolute legend, mate, and one of the best people that I've ever had the privilege of getting to meet, getting to work with. and getting to know both on the stage and behind the stage as well. Yeah.
Do you feel like that's where the larger part of your development and your business growth and your mindset has come from?
Yeah, absolutely. If there's one human that's had the greatest impact on my life, professional life, and personally as an adult, it would absolutely be Kerwin. Yeah.
Did you have a chance to let him know that?
Yeah, many times. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Rest in peace.
Yeah, what a legend. I mean, when I first came to Facebook, I was really late to jump on. I was refused. I'm like, nah, if people want to find me, they're going to pick up the phone and call me. I just didn't want to get on it. I was really hesitant. And when I first jumped on, because I was in business at that point, I was really interested in the algorithms of how Facebook and stuff work. Kerwin's videos were the first to come up on my feed. So I went down like a rabbit hole with this guy, and it was incredible. And I was sharing it. And if you look back on like memories, sharing from way back, Kerwin stuff to other people, dude, you got to check out this guy. This guy is a freak, man. He's the best.
He was the only person that I went to watch his workshops. Like he did the free ones first. And when you're starting business, any free workshop, and he just had so much value where it wasn't a sell. Instantly you went to other ones, they're just trying to sell. They have other people selling. And he was just giving loads of value in everything he said about algorithms, about Instagram, how many hashtags to do, how many times a day to post, just genuine information that even if you didn't sign up, you could just walk away with the wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he really broke the mold in Australia when it came to speakers in the professional development space, because he didn't come from that place of perfection. He was more than happy to speak about all the imperfections and the struggles that he had in life, because that's what we related to, right? And just that level of grittiness and that realness about him to go, you know what, he's just not some wanker up on stage. He's one of us that's been able to not just talk the talk, but he's walked the walk as well. And that's what I think a lot of people related to when it comes to Kerwin, and actually stepping into that space. I did an exercise once where what do we have to do? Okay, so you had to go with somebody that knew you well, a partner, whether it's a friend, business partner, relationship partner, and you had to write down in one sentence a statement on who you thought you were. And the other person had to write down the same thing about who they thought you were. And you had to do the same to the other person and reflect on that. And this person wrote down for me, a student of humanity and an adventurer of life. And I went, wow, that's amazing. Thank you. It's poetry. What'd you write? And I went, the successful fuck up. Right? And I thought about it. I'm like, there's so much pressure on living up to an expectation, on other people's expectations, to be this poetic version that they may see you as. For me, the successful fuck up is something I greatly relate to, because it gives me permission to actually make mistakes and learn from them, because you're not who you think you are. You are not who they think you are. You are who you think that they think that you are. We all turn up as different versions of ourselves based on who we surround ourselves with. And then when you have a level of awareness in and around that, you start to play at a different level, a different game.
That's one of the best things anyone said on the show, bro. That's straight
just that in itself, that heavy gold nugget,
it's really nice, is
a perfect example of what I was able to experience through the time at K2, because
that's where we met.
That's where me and Dan met. That's how we know each other, and I can hand on heart say Kerwin's also changed my life. And in changing my life, it was able to leave a ripple effect in the people around me, the family, friends, colleagues, business owners, whatever it is. And of course, the same with you. I could probably hand on heart we could probably both say any impact that was left in that room has left an incredible ripple effect of the people in that room. But it's always a depth of knowledge to that extent where there's just a high level of, whoa, fuck. And then the trajectory just changes. Everything shifts, you start seeing things different, and it's a continual, those being stacked, that just changes how you see life, how you do life. That's what I experienced. And man, I love hearing this stuff. I connect so well to this is like music to my ears, and it gets me excited because it then leads me to say, how did this affect your business? How did these new glasses and this new mindset and this understanding of the world through what you've learned through professional development, through Kerwin, through K2, how did this lead you to scaling your business where you were able to step away? Because that's a heavy.
Yeah, because that's the question I actually wrote here. Like, there's a moment in time when you just said before, I had the opportunity to step away from my business, but how? Was it structure? Was it key personnel? Or was it just like
It's a concoction of things, but what are those things?
Well, I'll share with you the experience.
Really loaded questions.
Mate, no. It's perfect. Actually, it's perfect. I'll share my experience from the very first mastermind that I went to with Kerwin. After doing the free one and then going to a Nail It and Scale It and then stepping into the actual mastermind K2 group, I walked in there thinking, yep, I'm going to spend the next few days here and walk away with the keys to the castle on all of the tactics that I need to do operationally in my business to be able to smooth it all out, only to walk away 4 days later with my tail in between my legs going, oh shit, I've got to do a lot of work on myself first, right? So it really came down to mindset to start off with, right? That was the number one thing, right? Because like I said, you've got to be in the right frame of mind to be able to show up in business day in, day out, especially as a leader. I had a business at that point in time. I think I had around 15 in my team. So I was managing a team. I was a leader, but I wasn't showing up as a leader. I had the title of leadership, but I wasn't behaving like one, and leadership is a behavior, not just a title. And a leader needs to know the way, show the way, and go the way. Right. And that's really, really, really important from anyone that's sort of, managing a team and just understanding that you've got eyes on you all the time, and what they see is what they will mimic, and that's the standard that they will hold themselves to as well. Now, beyond that, it is about systems, right? It's about planning, really, really important. We have our annual plan. We've just recently completed that. We do quarterly reviews on that. That's really important, because I think a lot of people get into the business with no plan, and it's a little bit like trying to find my way out here from the airport with no GPS. Okay,
and then traffic. Here we go. Let's go, baby.
Yep. So you need to know your destination. You need to know what roads to turn down, where to go, when and where and how. And that changes. And a plan is meant to change. Particularly in business, you need to be able to pivot. There are things that just pop up out of nowhere, and you've got to be flexible in and around it, but you've got to have a really solid plan to start off with. Then scaling, you've got to have really strong systems, really strong standard operating procedures, SOPs. They're really the two big tactical things that I see a lot of businesses don't have, and that's really the only thing that's really holding them back from being able to scale and step out. And you have to know your numbers.
Yeah.
And I know you really want to talk about
Mr. Finance. Yeah, Mr. Finance. You look that way.
Yeah. Well, I want to know, did you have other business partners, or was it just you spearheading it?
I did have a business partner at one point in time. This is prior to Kerwin. And then I ended up buying him back out. I started the business on my own. He bought in, I bought him back out, and then I've sort of moved
on from there. How did that end? Because I've just recently gone through a business bit, right?
Okay.
And I always say partnerships eventually, whether it be 50 years, 5 years, 5 months, they're gonna.
It didn't end well, and I regretfully didn't end well, and the reason being is because we entered the partnership on a handshake agreement.
We just talked about this.
Yeah. And as great as it sounds, because you're like, yep, we're besties, we're going to go out there, we're going to conquer the world, we're all on the same page. The reality is, like you say, eventually there's going to be something that comes up and it's going to deteriorate.
And there's no something written down about.
There's no reference point to say
who does what, what are the responsibilities.
Absolutely. And once you get to that point and egos start to come up and you start to butt heads and you don't have an agreement that you can come back to, that's when things start to untangle, and very, very quickly. And so, that was a bit of corporate warfare for about 12 months, trying to work out how we were going to get through this or separate, bring the business down. Sorry, not bring it, but dissolve the partnership.
However.
Yep. And that took a toll. Took a toll on the business, took a toll on me as well.
The more clashing of the heads, the harder it is to get out of an agreement, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Dan, you mentioned mindset briefly before. Mindset is a big buzzword in the business world. What was the difference in mindset that you learned? What was the growth in mindset? What did mindset mean to you before and after?
Okay, when it comes to mindset, and this is not just a business talk, this is something that I apply to everything in my life. And it was something that I heard from Peter Crone, the mind architect. If you haven't heard of him, look him up. He's amazing.
Incredible guy.
And he says, life will deliver you the cast of characters and circumstances to reveal where you're not free or what is within. And once you start to gain some awareness and some understanding around that, you quickly learn that there are no such things as problems or mistakes. You've just got learning opportunities and gifts. And every struggle, every challenge that comes in, if you change the meaning attachment to that, that's where the real changes begin in the game of life, in the game of business.
Fuck, that's awesome.
Well, what I will say is you've got an incredible memory for quotes, like word for word. You're getting them and just remembering it. The previous guests always like, what's that quote again? He's just like got it. Just got it.
Yeah, but
and then you've got the meaning of it, right?
Well,
like it's great.
I'll give you a quick example, right? On how things changed for me, and I think something that everyone can relate to. You know, if we go back to the circumstance appearing in our life and how people react, right? So you can see someone get cut off by a car, and two people will usually react in two completely opposite ways. One will be the road rager, man, get out of the way, F you, all the rest of it. And the other person will be like, not a problem, might be in a rush, it's not going to affect me. Now, the circumstance is exactly the same, but the two human reactions are totally different, equal and opposite. Why? It's because all that circumstance has done is revealed what is within the individual. So if you're carrying a lot of stress, a lot of anger, you might not have slept well, might have been tired, that's where the road rager starts to come out. But, if you've had a lot of space, a lot of time, and you're in a happy place in your life, then you've got more of that compassion, that understanding that comes up. Now, I used to be the road rager in life, the victim. Why is this happening to me? Until I realized that it's not happening to me. It's actually happening for me. And they didn't do this to me. They've just revealed what is within. Now, every now and again, I'll be driving. I might get caught behind somebody and I'll be like, and I'm like, whoa, that's not them. That's me. Then I start to self-reflect on what's going on. Have I got an unresolved issue that's happening? Do I need to have a conversation with someone? Or do I just need to take half a day off and just, do something for Dan? That's a big game changer.
Me and Ben were talking about this the other day, and I think we were saying, like, as you get more successful, it's easier to realize that you have been going through rage and have been feeling like the victim, because once you start winning, then you start seeing everything that happened to you was for a reason. But when you're facing those challenges and feeling like the world's against you, it's hard to see it as, I'll get over this. But you have to quickly realize that those are lessons, because then you start reacting. You still stay in that road rager mentality.
Exactly. And sometimes the reason doesn't show up. And you may not understand what it is, but you just need to absolutely trust in it. And a funny thing that happened, it was would have been last winter or the winter beforehand. I was going to the gym and I needed a few groceries. The gym's above the Coles. I thought I'll just go and grab what I need first, because I'll forget when I'm at the gym, and I'll just chuck it in the car. And I'll go upstairs and I'll do my workout. Just wanted some stuff for my banana smoothie in the morning. Anyway, did my workout, came home, woke up the next day, opened up the fridge and went, I've left the stuff in the car, right? Now, most people in that moment would be like, fuck, geez, now I've got to go back to Woolies again. I've just wasted $80 worth of groceries. We're going to have to take time out again to go back to the supermarket, But in that moment, I was just like, wow, I wonder what's waiting for me back at the shops. So all day I was curious and excited about getting back to the Coles again to actually do my shop. So I grabbed the trolley, I'm walking around, I'm looking at what's waiting for me there, and you wouldn't believe what was there.
The girl of his dreams.
Absolutely nothing. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't redirected away from a car accident or whatever it might be, right? So you don't need to understand the reason why something's happening. Just accept that it is what it is. Because the meaning attachment was the only thing that I changed. Now, if I was in that fuck moment, then I would have been, had a lot of cortisol in my system, a lot of stress. But I had all these endorphins running through my system, like trying to work out, what was going to happen and being curious about, what was waiting for me.
Almost excited for the next opportunity, right? Like
big time.
Anything could happen. It's awesome perspective. It really, really changes the way you look at things, because a lot of people play that victim mentality or, questioning probably why is this happening to me all the time,
But it's like working a muscle. Right. Once you get that level of awareness, you still have those moments of, right. And it might take a couple of days for you to look back on it and go, oh no, it's okay. And then it becomes a few hours and it becomes a few minutes. And then you get to a point sometimes where it becomes instantaneous, and it just becomes part of your subconscious. And it's a really amazing place to get into. Now I still revert back to default behavior. Yeah. No doubt about it. But again, it's having some awareness in around that going, why am I back here? What's going on here? How do I change my state? Yeah.
Do you still work with some mentors now? Do you have anyone that you particularly still work with or?
Not in an official capacity. No, not right now. I think, after stepping away from K2 and, Kerwin passing, I'm just in a space right now where I'm just consolidating. I think for me, it's really important that I connect with a mentor, and there's got to be certainly a big level of relatability, and I just haven't had that person pop into my life or come across my feed just yet.
I know you spoke about future plans off camera about having your own coaching agency. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So stepping back into the business now, I'm not involved in the operations day-to-day part of the business. So if I don't show up for whatever reason, the business still operates as it usually would. My role now back in the business is in high-level strategy, culture, and just getting involved where I need to. But I'm stepping into a space, it's my legacy piece now, and I've got a lot of experience in building a successful company and particularly in digital marketing, and it's a very, very tough industry to be in. You need to have a lot of knowledge, but not just knowledge in our industry, but all the things I've been speaking about and what is required to build a successful business and scale it. So I'm taking on right now invitation only some one-on-one clients in the space that actually want to grow their own digital marketing agency and learn from what I've done. I've spent over $1 million on professional and personal development. So I've got a fair bit to give there on top of the 23 years of experience that I've got. But I'm building out an online course as well, where it's going to be a one-to-many type offering. So I'm really excited about that.
So is this from a beginner or someone that's already established but looking to scale and get to that next level?
The one-on-one stuff is someone that is established, that is having a little bit of trouble breaking through that ceiling. That barrier, yep. But the one-to-many is for anyone at an entry level through to those that have been in the game for a little while. I actually think it'd be easier for someone that's coming in fresh. Yeah. Because anything that once you've got a business established, a lot of what you're going to need to do is start untangling. I call it uncooking the spaghetti, right? Because when you've got a big bowl of spaghetti and it's all tangled up, all the cooked spaghetti, you look at it and you're like, it's a mess. So uncooking the spaghetti and bringing them out in a nice clean strands and then laying them end on end. That's that from a business perspective, that's the best way that I can describe it. Yeah. Because we all, at the end of the day, we all sort of feel at time to time where we've got a bit of a spaghetti brain going on, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And a lot of business owners got to empty the cup and start again sometimes, or can slightly empty it and refill it, right? But they find it hard to do that because they've been doing it for so long. A bit of arrogance.
Right. It's a process. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, it comes back to another thing that we talked about before, and I don't know if you boys know, but I'm a financial advisor.
No, I've never heard it in my life.
Yeah.
So tell me more.
Tell us a bit about
Tell me more.
I thought you were going to take it.
And
for it.
Yeah, I've been speaking. A lot of what I speak to business owners about is about not focusing on just doing the one thing that they do, whether it be, if they're in the trade, they're going to start diversifying their investments or outside of the business. So is that something that you do within the business or that you started doing where you're building up your personal assets, or were you looking at utilizing your business and going into different areas?
Well, one of the biggest pieces of advice I will give to any business owner that is growing a business as well is to reinvest back into themselves and back into their business. That's the number one investment strategy that I have for them, rather than taking the money out and putting it into something else, especially if you're looking to grow and scale. there will become a point of maturity in your business, in your life, where you will want to take that money and start to diversify risk and start to build a wealth creation plan. I've got an asset and an ATM in my business. And what I mean by an ATM, it's treated like an ATM. We make the money, I take the money out of the business, and then I start to move it into other investment structures. So I've got some really cool stuff in property. I've got a share portfolio as well.
And sorry, is that within the business or personal?
No, that's personal, separate to the business.
Yeah. And that's because, if something goes wrong with the business, you're falling back on your personal assets. You're utilizing that as an ATM, but putting it and reinvesting it into other assets, not just cash.
Absolutely, yeah. Diversifying within your business is very, very important as well if you can, whether that's by service or by geography, like location. So when COVID hit, as an example, one thing in my industry, people tell you niche, become a specialist marketer in this particular industry or this one, right? So when COVID hit, we got the restrictions and the lockdowns, and businesses had to shut, particularly those in the fitness space and hospitality in particular. Over the next 3 days, I lost over $1 million, which went out to about 1.6 million within the week. And that's because all of our clients that were directly affected by shutdowns, there's no point in marketing.
Yeah.
First thing we're going to do is cut
the first thing that they cut out.
Right? And we were able to weather that storm, whereas those agencies that specialized and niched in those industries went under immediately. So that diversification of risk is something that's really, really important. So yeah, we've got a number of industries that we work with.
Yeah. Such a challenging time through that COVID period too, right? Like, did you find that you guys had to pivot the way you market at that point? Like, was there certain platforms that were performing better? I know it was a few years back now, but, because some businesses doubled down at that time, right? They really put money into marketing and then a lot ran away.
Well, I think it depends on the type of business that you're in, but I was definitely pushing, if you're an opportunity to still be operating a business, double down because those that are coming from a place of fear and sort of pulling back a little bit, there's a huge opportunity for you to actually step in and gain market share. Might be a smaller market, but you're picking up more market share.
So, sorry, was that double down on marketing when you're in a place of vulnerability?
Yeah, when the market's in a place.
When the market.
We had a previous guest saying that as well.
I think it was Joel
from marketing.
Inspiration's Pain.
They doubled down.
That's how they took over.
Yeah. And also that's where we really started to see digital really take off, right? Because where businesses could no longer trade traditionally with product or service out of a fixed location, they all went to digital, and digital became a very, very competitive space, right? Which was great for us because my agency was well positioned to take that business on board. But even more so now that it's even more competitive, you just can't go and engage a digital marketer and expect to have amazing results unless, one, you've got the budget to do so, and two, you're dealing with a team or an agency that's got a lot of experience, a lot of resources, and are experts in each of the platforms. Because digital marketing now, from an agency perspective, you can't be a generalist. You need to employ specialists in the role.
And when you say platforms, are you talking about Instagram, Facebook, or you're talking about different?
I'm talking about Instagram, Facebook, Google, YouTube, the lot. Like, they are so complex now within their own platforms that there's just way too much to be able to know at a very high level.
And it's ever changing, isn't it? It changes on a daily.
It's frustrating, but it's also that's what probably makes it a little bit more harder, I think, for smaller agencies and digital marketers to compete at the level where we're at.
So is it worth paying for it? Like boosting ads? Like, say, for example, we have a podcast. Everything that we do is organic.
Yep.
Is it worth boosting, sponsoring our episodes, our reels?
I never boost. I know one thing about marketing. Never press that boost button. That's about all I know.
Is it worth doing those things, paying for it?
That's a really loaded question.
Sorry, call me Patrick and then answer it.
My loaded questions has more depth.
Well, it's a question. It seems like a very simple question that requires a simple answer, but the thing is, it doesn't. Like any business that's out there, this is advice to any single business. Every business is, if you go and engage a digital marketer and they give you an off-the-shelf price or a package, that's the biggest red flag that you'll see in an agency, because every single campaign, client, product, service requires a level of research to be able to determine what your competitors are doing, where you're at, your product, your service, and going through a discovery phase in terms of, what are your most profitable lines? What's your profit margin in it? Where are you now? Where do you want to be? Where is the gap in between? And actually having an agency that prescribes a solution rather than an off-the-shelf package. Because anyone that's doing that, those agencies are just out there to line their own pockets rather than actually give you a strategy that's going to actually return on investment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to whether you should put some money behind your podcast, I mean, that's probably a bigger conversation to be had.
Yeah.
And really having a look at the data that sits in behind it as well.
Dan, let's flip the script. A lot of people in Australia don't actually know you as a business owner or marketing. They know you from Maths.
Yeah.
Season 10, Married at First Sight. Now,
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
Hey, I was watching that going, mate, this guy is just getting hammered. Like I was watching it.
So and here's the thing, right? They're after plot lines.
Yep.
And looking to create drama. Married at First Sight is not a show about love. It's a show about drama that's masked in the veil of love, right?
Yep.
For deliberately mismatching. So they will corner you and try and pin you on things and narratives that you're not thinking, that don't exist, or they'll use particular psychological techniques to actually hear that.
Yeah,
is that out there? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hey, we're in Western Sydney, mate. There's going to be there's probably a VL outside. So.
Drive-by shootings.
Yeah, nice.
You're lucky we didn't hear a shotgun.
Yeah,
So
mate, and not just ignoring it.
And I never applied for the show. I never really watched a full season of the show. You see snippets. It's hard to avoid, right? But I had a casting agent reach out to me through Instagram, slid into my DMs and said, hey, are you interested in finding love on TV? And this is after I'd stepped out of my business as well. And I'm climbing mountains, paddling rivers and hiking waterfalls and really in that, that space of quantum, I'd call it. Yeah. And I replied back and said, I'm not interested in finding anything. I'll attract what's right for me when it's right. And they're like, this is when they first started gaslighting me.
Yeah.
They're like, you never went looking for us. We found you. And I went, oh, you're right.
That's good.
Yeah.
They're good.
So I said, okay, well, what was it? How did you find me? And what was it about me that interested you in reaching out? And they went, we did a location search at the Gold Coast. We found you in a social media post. I think it was at the Burleigh Pavilion or something like that. And your brief fit what we're looking for: adventure, beach, food, fast cars, great time. We've already got the girl. We're just now looking for her match.
Yeah, right.
And I'm thinking to myself, wow, okay, I'm one of the lucky ones that's, I've actually got a proper match on the show here, right? So
next minute.
I entertained the conversation, and next minute I'm actually I'm on the show. Yeah,
but not the match that they kind of promised you.
Yeah, that's right.
Seeing you as an adventurous guy out there, doing all these things.
Yeah, and I want to say, Sandy's an amazing person, right? Yeah. Absolutely, but the compatibility is absolutely important, especially when it comes to love. And especially when you're in front of TV, in front of a lot of people on TV. So, I have a lot of people go, oh, Daniel was stitched up. I'm like, yeah, but she was also stitched up with me, as is everyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you question the compatibility? Like what parts were compatible? I was interested to know that.
Straight up, I questioned.
Yeah,
big time.
Seemed like different.
We are very, very, very different. And again, I celebrate differences, right? There's nothing right or wrong about it. No one's better or worse.
No, but we're talking about love, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's right. But again, this is a show about drama. Once you start, for me, there are a lot of reasons why I looked at the show as something I was going to do. I was interested for the fact that I'm in marketing and media. So it'd be really cool to get a peek behind the curtain as to what, the biggest television show in Australia actually looked like. And two, I was a massive Survivor fan. I thought, well, if I get onto Married at First Sight, I might get onto Survivor from there. You know what I mean? Chess, not checkers, right? And who
you might be on the villain side now.
That's where I'm angling. If you're having me back. But so it was after the honeymoon that we went on, and I pulled Sandy aside off camera, and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to write leave at this commitment ceremony. I don't want to blindside you, but I want to let you know, we've been deliberately mismatched. this isn't right, and I don't want to waste your time or my time or anyone else's. And she goes, no, don't, Dan. Like, I've given up too much to be here as well. Let's just have some fun with it. Let's just have a showman's type relationship. And I went, yeah, okay, cool. But Dan's not going to just hang around the apartment when we're not filming. I'm going to do what I like doing. I'm going to head down to Bondi and go to Manly and, go for a swim, have a run, catch up with some friends, etc. And then production got wind of that and started working against me behind my back. Yeah, which I had no idea about until I watched it back. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
So hang on. So you didn't know how they decided to portray you on the show until it was actually live?
Nobody really does.
Okay.
Everyone on the show actually thinks that you're getting a great narrative and a great edit, right? And that's what they want you to do. They want you to lead you into a place of false premise, right? And make you feel comfortable. So you bring your guard down and whatnot. But then when you watch back at it, you're like, wow, like I can't believe that, they've actually done that.
That's how they spun it.
Yeah, that's right. Fuck. Yeah, but also the conditions in behind the sets are disgusting. They're atrocious.
What do you mean?
So there's, I don't know whether you've heard of the Stanford prison experiment.
No.
Okay. So it's a psychological experiment that happened back in the 70s in Stanford University.
Is that the one where they increased the voltage?
No, this is where they basically
that's a different search you were looking at.
They grabbed a bunch of university students from Stanford, volunteers they actually got paid, and heads you were a guard, tails you were a prisoner, and they simulated a prison-like environment, and then monitored the psychological changes that were actually happening in those people. And the guards became quite empowered, and the prisoners actually started really acting up badly, right? And they had to shut the experiment down. I think it was after 6 days. But a lot of the psychological stuff that we were exposed to was very consistent with that whole experiment that they did. So I'm talking things like sleep deprivation, hunger, being given alcohol, isolation. In behind the scenes before the dinner parties and the commitment ceremonies, we're actually put into tents inside this World War II parachute factory, I think it is, where we're with the sun beating down on us, hot, sweaty.
And do they kind of keep you separate so you're not...
Oh, you're isolated. Yeah. You're literally...
You don't have your phone. You don't...
You're put on a kitchen stool for hours inside a tent with nothing but the walls of the tent and your own thoughts and the stress of, what you're about to walk into.
Yeah.
And a box full of like really shitty, snacky food.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then they thrust you in there and give you a beer or a wine and then let the drama all start to unfold from there. So, yeah.
Well, are you watching any of the current season? Because there is some people that are showing some stuff from behind the scenes. Like there's one person that I think is a bit of a wacko, but she is showing some stuff, Jackie, from the current season, who is saying that, same thing as what you're saying, right? But she's saying her edits become bad, and she's actually saying she felt threatened in the relationship and violence, and that all these things are coming out.
Yep.
It feels like there's a bit more of a backlash every season, and now Channel 9 has this responsibility as an employer of people.
Yep. Yeah. So up until very recently, it's always been about you sign the contract. You knew what you were getting into, but you really don't until you're exposed to all of this stuff in behind the scenes. Now, I don't know what Jackie's experience is, nor do I know what any of the others are in terms of the relationship side of things, and I hope some of these allegations aren't as serious as what they actually are, because that's quite horrible. It's a bad thing to go through. But yeah, now I believe that there's an investigation from one of the human rights commissions that are looking at the show at the moment from how we're treated as humans, right? Because there's a contract that you sign, but there's also laws. You got to be done a certain way. I've always said this as well, like that you enter into a coercive control relationship with the production team, and they really do use some very strong psychological tactics to manipulate you and control you, and from a place of fear and a place of vulnerability. It's and some people are more equipped to handle it, and a lot of others aren't. But I also say this, like, don't judge a person from what you see on TV. I always say, have a look at how they respond and react afterwards once they get their social media back and they start doing podcasts and interviews. This is actually the first time I've spoken about maths on a podcast or anything. I refused to do any interviews or anything after that. Yeah, it was an experience, and I just didn't want to breathe any more oxygen into something that was pretty full on.
Were you disappointed by the show, Dan? Like, that betrayed you?
Yeah, very much so. It's really difficult watching something back. There was a couple of scenes in there which I actually didn't remember at the time because I was so drunk and out of it that I've got messages on my phone from the next morning after that actually happened, filmed that night, where I'm like, there's a big argument last night. I hardly remember any of it because I was so out of it. So it's very difficult when you watch something back that, one, you don't remember, two, there's been an edit on it, and three, there's somebody that's trying to deliberately character assassinate you, and it makes you really start to question, your identity. It's a very difficult thing to look back on.
And did it impact your business? Like, did it impact, hey, I've now seen this edit.
Yep.
Shit, like, I'm still dealing with business. There's people that want to deal with me. Did it affect any relationships? Did it affect?
No, not at all. I'd stepped away from my business legitimately at that point in time. And my amazing current business partner and CEO was managing and running the business and the team from that perspective. So it didn't affect my business at all whatsoever. Okay. Plus, I think a lot of my clients aren't the type of clients that are actually sitting and tuning into Married at First Sight. Or if they are, they're able to watch it through a lens of, hey, I know this guy. This is heavily produced. Yeah. There's a bit of narration in there, and it's not reality. The reality TV is the furthest thing from reality that you could possibly get. That's one of the biggest things I took away from the show.
Isn't that ironic? Yeah. I remember I had a client once, and she mentioned, I was watching Married at First Sight last night, and you would never believe what happened. It was just general conversation I was having with her. I said, actually, I know a guy on there. And she goes, oh my God, who is it? I said, his name's Dan. She goes, oh my God, is that Dan, the one with the Indian? I said, yeah. And this is before I actually started watching it. I just threw it away. She goes, oh my God, he's such a nasty man. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean? Yeah. And then that's when I watched it, and I thought to myself, man, this is the furthest from what the reality is. And how bad does it have to get for reality TV shows to portray people like that just for the clicks? It's like this random person who doesn't know Dan has built up this perception of him, and then when she said it to me, I was like, no, Dan's actually a really cool guy. He's a really top bloke. And I felt the need to have to defend him, but then I thought to myself, fuck, what's actually going on
the show? You start thinking about it, because it is that pack mentality kind of.
Yeah, that's right. And there's collectively around 100 hours of footage that's filmed every single day through all the couples to make a 1 hour episode. Yeah. So 99% of everything gets left on the cutting room floor. Now, my edit could have been a completely different way, and that's what a lot of us expected as well, because I was the guy that a lot of the other cast were coming to for advice, in terms of the drama that's going on and how to deal with things, because a lot of people cracked very, very early in terms of, the mental side of things, the mental game. But I had a lot more of the tools to be able to deal with it for a lot longer. But they got me eventually. Yeah. They use things like NLP, neuro-linguistic programming techniques as well to plant seeds, to plant ideas in your head. And then they might start that 3 days earlier, and then they'll ask you a leading question and you'll say something. You're like, hang on, they're not my words. And then you look back, you're like, this is where it's come from. Yeah. But very, very crafty.
I find that disappointing. Yeah. I don't watch the show quite regularly. My wife often puts it on. I think it's just background noise, but the show's meant to be about love, isn't it? It's like, what is the intention behiof the actual show?
Yeah, it is. But anyone that
experiment to find love, correct?
Yeah, that's right. But listen, any of the cast that tell you that they went on there truly to find love, they're bullshitting you, right? Because they're either going on it for two reasons. Well, one is they're naive. So yes, there's an element of that. Or it's clout. It's a raising awareness.
Social media.
Exactly.
And some of them maybe are future OnlyFans. There's a few that have gone from that to OnlyFans and they're generating great money, or to them. Or respect,
it's part of the strategy.
Yeah. But they've all got social media followings already now, right? It wasn't like that. Season 1, season 2. Now, like you said, they're looking for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm a data guy. So if you want to look at the data on my season, I did the math on it. I think there was only 2 couples that were legitimately paired that were still together after 10 years, right? Yeah. So that's who would go to a business with a product or service that had over a 90% failure rate. You just wouldn't do it, right? So you need to take it with a grain of salt. It's entertaining. It's great to watch because it makes you feel good about your own life, right?
Yeah. That's what I told you. And all those people are coming out because they don't like their jobs anymore. Like besides yourself, right? You're still doing what you were doing before that. You were already part retired. But these people are going on to become content creators, selling products, promoting products for free. Free stuff, getting dresses, all that stuff. That's what they're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. And the pathway that I got to that point was really interesting because it was, I recently just stepped out of my business about a year and a half, 2 years beforehand. And I was like, I'm going to still do something that's going to bring value to my life, whether it's personal, whether it is professional, or something that's for entertainment, or it's a great story, I'm going to do it. So I bought a warehouse, or got my hands on a warehouse and renovated this warehouse and turned it into our new headquarters, which is absolutely spectacular on the Gold Coast. It's amazing. And then I finished that. It was about 3 months. And then I did a charity boxing fight. And I sort of went into the closest thing I could to a professional fight camp for 3 months. I was training 3 to 5 hours a day, 6 days a week, and then stepped into the ring. I did something that was very, how do I say this? It didn't come naturally for me. Very unnatural. Very unnatural to always. My biggest weapon's always been my brain and my mouth. My brother was always the one that would get us into a bit of trouble physically, and I'd always talk it
out of it.
Yeah. So to step into the
don't
ring,
arrest him, please.
Yeah.
Like he's just an idiot.
Yeah. and that was fun. And I actually did that. My grandparents immigrated from Europe, and my granddad, when he came over, we had no money then. We had circuses over through Europe, I was told, and that all got shut down during the war. And we came over with nothing. And my granddad was a prize fighter after hours, after his day job being a builder. So I wanted to do something that honored him and try something that was new and different for me. Yeah. And it was I got the win.
Yeah.
Well
but there's nowhere to hide. Once you're in the ring, there's a saying that only a fighter knows the feeling, and that's the truth. Yeah. Anyway, so I did that, and everyone's like, "What's next? What's next?" I'm like, I don't know. And this is when the casting producer,
it was like fate.
And I said, how long? Like 3 months. I went, sign me up.
Do you regret going on maths?
No, mate, I can't say that. I can't say regret anything. Again, if you want to talk about mindset. Everything's happening to you, everything's happening for you, not to you. And like sometimes you don't know why, but you've just got to allow that moment its space to reveal its true wisdom. And I'm still getting downloads on that as well. Very humbling experience as well, in terms of like the amount of attention that you have on you afterwards it's overwhelming. It's huge, right? It's been nothing but love in real life. Social media is a different story. Yeah. I'm still getting some crazy DM me and whatnot, but it's always those with the profile picture of a cat or a set of crystals or a unicorn. So,
people always can write whatever they want behind the keyboard, right?
But it's pretty funny. After a couple of drinks, I'll open up that folder and
hey boys, look at this.
It's like reading mean tweets. It's funny. Yeah.
Do you respond back to any of that hate, or did you at some point? Like,
can you read some now?
No. Well, did you try and? There'll be some nasty ones, but did you want to defend yourself? Because I'm seeing a genuine character here, and I wanted to take it as face value today. I didn't watch your show.
Yeah,
I heard a little bit about it, but I just wanted to take you, front on, right? And
I think there's a natural human reaction that you do actually want to defend, but it's just. I think for me, whenever I feel like I'm going to react, I go, whoop, just take a step back. Sometimes we got to write it down or type a text that we don't send and then we delete it out again.
Diffused.
So sleep on it. So yes, there was moments when I'd read some of this stuff and the first thing I want to do is react, respond and defend myself. But then I'm like, for who? Who are these people? Who's taking their time out to actually send this garbage to me anyway? And I mean, rot. So
I really want to see it.
But here's the thing. I'll show you a couple after this. Funny, you'll get a laugh. But the best way to put out a fire is to starve it of oxygen, and that goes into anything in life as well. Don't talk into something because all you're doing is you're talking more oxygen into it, and the more oxygen you breathe into a situation like that, the more it continues to burn. And also with the tabloids as well, the trashy tabloids, they would write like 90. You want to talk about fake news? Holy shit, like these guys, they would write something that's just completely false and inaccurate. But I worked out their strategy, which was they wanted the reality person to bite back and respond, because once they did that, then they've got a story that they can run with.
But there are some people that thrive on that, right? You've got this reaction and this way of doing it. There's some on the current series that are all about continuing it and continuing it for as long as possible to stay as relevant as possible.
Yeah, whether it's relevancy, whether it's their ego in full control, or a combination of both. But it's not a space that I like to be in. You know why? It's very easy to get lured down into the gutter down there, but what a horrible place, to be swimming in sewage. I look at it and go, fly like an eagle.
Yeah.
Man, I love this.
You still keep in touch with anyone?
Yeah, I do. Actually, last weekend I drove 5 hours to Gundawindi to go and watch Cam. Cam was from Darwin. He's a blonde, long-haired guy. He cut it a little short now. He looks like Ellen DeGeneres. Actually, that's a photo that's in my phone every time he rings me. But he decided he's going to do a triathlon. Not just any triathlon, the toughest triathlon in Australia, the Hell of the West at Gundawindi. 2 kilometre swim, 80 kilometre ride, and a 20-kilometre run. So I went out there and supported him, and basically gave him a lot of grief as well at the same time. Only 20 Ks to go, mate. And had a few laughs, and it was really inspiring to see him do that. But he's become a very close mate of mine. And
that's good to be able to get that from there.
After maths, was there a well, there was obviously a lot of work on the mindset and development, Dan, but was there a state of like, fuck, what have I done?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I said, to unravel itself. And then how did you flip that?
When you're watching yourself back on TV with all of the things that I've just explained to you, it's really confronting. It is like, fuck, what have I done? And how am I going to deal with this? Because once you've finished and wrapped up that last episode, filming it, they're just like, see you later, guys. They don't give you any kind of support or preparation. They'll tick and flick you to a psychologist if you want. Again, they probably need
just to show that they've done something.
Yep. But that's it. Apart from that, you're on your own.
Wow.
But there's obviously after, what are we now, 12 seasons, there's a fraternity, right? Now, and we are here to support each other. So, I'd have the most amazing people from previous seasons reach out to me and just go, hey, it's Al from last season, Dan, just ring in to touch base and just see if you're okay, how you're dealing with things, blah, blah, blah. And I'll give you some advice from their own experience. But is the juice worth the squeeze? Mate, it's just part of life, right? Yeah. It's just another story to tell at the end of the day.
But then so you've seen the edits, right? But I'm guessing that there's still publicity stuff to do. So are they contacting you after you've seen this potentially bad edit or, something that you never thought was going to happen, and then they're saying, hey, by the way, can you come in? You got to film this, or you take some pictures.
Yeah, well, I got banned from publicity.
Yeah.
Because I started dating one of the guests that was actually at my maths wedding.
Didn't mention that. Was that during the filming?
No. Okay, it was legit fully afterwards. And we'd been mates for quite a while. And
so she was on your side of the...
Yeah, she was my guest at my Married at First Sight wedding. Yeah, and then sort of after the show, obviously we're friends, and we sort of this spark developed, and it turned to a relationship for a few months. But obviously there was a lot of controversy in and around that once it got out publicly, and so that's all anyone wanted to know about. So they went, no publicity for you, Dan.
Yeah, we don't want you to have that limelight.
But I was more than happy with that anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting, Dan.
Yeah,
I love this, mate. I could talk about I could talk about the maths part for another hour, man.
It's cool to see what's on the other side and what the reality is. The reality, ironically, anyway.
Just a couple of boys, just a few boys talking about maths, eh?
Very manly. Yeah, very masculine. I think it's important that people take it for what it's worth after the show.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, what they portray you. Some people get caught up in this, and you got that lady that you spoke to that
I got a genuine opinion, man. I'm like, man, I have to make sure I stand my ground.
Yeah, good.
Make sure she understands.
And I'm sure a million of Dan's friends would have done the same outside of that. But they show and who he is two different people. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's a shame, actually. Not that you're a nice guy, but it's good that you're a nice guy. It's a shame what they're doing on TV.
It was actually the woman that Pat was speaking about.
I don't watch. My wife actually put maths on funny last night, just randomly.
Mate, just say you watch it,
No,
right?
I'm
You
being
can just
serious.
say you. I say I'll watch it,
I
right?
would
It's
if
my.
I did.
It's my.
I've
my
watched
thing,
every
my switch
Desperate
off.
Housewives show. I admitted that.
Yeah.
But we don't watch maths. But we put it on last night, and I was actually thinking, fuck, like our life's pretty fucking good compared to
I
these
told you,
people.
you feel better about yourself knowing
Yeah.
like that. Some
Oh.
people.
I'd rather go back to boxing, get punched in the face.
Well, mate, we've gone some time.
Yeah. Interest of time, Dan. We usually wrap up every episode with a few fast track questions. We're going to throw them your way.
All right, let's go.
Don't hesitate.
It's
Don't
a
think about it.
Friday. It's late
Yeah.
in the day, late in the week. Let's go.
But as Ben brings that up, like I guess, do you want to plug any of your businesses? I know that you said you're starting to do some public speaking. You're doing the coaching. How can people reach out to you?
Mate, go to edgeonline.com.au or look us up, Edge Marketing, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We're doing some really cool vlog stuff at the moment called Beyond the Edge. So it's a peek behind the curtain of what it takes to run a successful digital marketing company.
Yep.
Agency Edge is the coaching platform. So any digital marketers out there right now, we're taking on some invitation only one-on-one coaching. So if you're interested in that, reach out to me there. They're my platforms. Otherwise, you can follow me personally, Dan Hunj, Hunj.
Dan, I actually see some, guest speaking or keynote speaking in your future, mate. I think, you've got a wealth of knowledge that needs to just be shared. So
This was not on the edits of maths, but mate, it's just some of the stuff that you've shared. It's some great advice, and thank you for sharing that knowledge with us and showing us the person behind the maths character that we've all seen.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the
so
time.
go back to that lady and tell her to watch the show.
Yeah.
Watch our show.
Because I'm guessing that she's
listening.
From your great work over here.
No,
This is a walk in the park after maths test.
All right, ready then? Let's do it. So, beach or country?
Beach. Every morning for sunrise.
Nice. Your first car?
A Datsun 120Y.
Hey.
Oh,
Worth
worth a lot now.
Hey.
Favorite sport?
Rugby league.
Team you follow?
Brisbane Broncos.
Oh, yes.
You go for the Broncos?
Yeah, 7 to Seaville.
Yeah.
Back in those days, Wendell Saylor, Takiri,
Yeah,
all the
glory
brown
days.
boys, all the brown boys.
And we were winning premierships.
When you were good.
Yeah.
Beer or wine?
Beer.
Favorite cheap meal?
Macca's.
Hey. Macca's?
Yeah.
We got to talk after.
Shadowbox comes. Project
Yeah.
X.
My fitness hat went on.
You should get him back in the ring
Yeah.
for Shadowbox.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, correct.
We I've done obviously a bit of boxing.
Get some
coaching.
amateurs to get in the ring, and he trains
What
them
did you
from
do?
scratch.
Corporate Clash. I saw.
Oh, yeah.
I saw. Yeah, it's good. It's a great experience. Awesome experience.
Amazing.
Burger or wrap?
Rap had one this morning.
Yep. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, mate, I've got no idea where I'm going to be next week, to be honest with you.
Mm.
Like-
When you semi-retired, it's easy, huh?
Listen, I'm on a one-way ticket right now to Sydney. I live my life one-way tickets at a time.
It's epic, man.
Well, mate, the missus away for the weekend. You can come bunk at mine if you want.
We watch maths together.
Yeah. I still got one episode on record.
Season 10.
Do each other's hair.
Pet peeve of yours?
Rudeness to waiters and waitresses.
Oh, 100%. That's how you...
Yeah, it's actually it's a red flag. It's a dating red flag for me. If I see that, that's it.
Not even that business. I've stopped talking to people where I've was going through a business relationship, and I just never wanted to see them again because of the way they spoke. To
Absolutely, I think it's a big sign of who that person really is, and how they're probably going to treat you after a little while as well.
Yep.
At a party, do you dance or are you a people watcher?
People watcher at the start, a few drinks into me, mate. I'm in the middle of the D floor.
Love it.
Doing a very bad worm impression.
What's a guilty pleasure TV show of yours? It's not fucking maths, surely.
But it's only season 10, watching himself.
I actually don't watch TV anymore. I haven't watched TV in years.
Yeah.
After maths or before?
No, I actually, I watched last year's season just from a cathartic point of view as well. I just wanted to watch it now through the lens and the wisdom that I had from the experience that I went on. But yeah, that's it. Aside from that, I don't watch TV.
Yeah, well. Unusual superstition.
Something that you do in the morning to start your day. That's
a routine.
That's a ritual.
That's it. Yeah,
a bit of a ritual.
superstition. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to think. Don't think I have one.
Yeah.
No.
A lot of our guests have said that they actually don't.
It's hard to.
But
think
there's also been some interesting ones that have been mentioned. But yes.
Not stepping on cracks when you're walking.
Sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
Oh, sitting in the corner was one. Yeah. If you're a snack, what would you be?
Not a papadum.
I don't know. It's something spicy.
Yeah.
Something that repeats on you.
Yeah. Butter chicken.
I'll get fucked.
It's all right. You got an Indian on the show. It's okay.
Yeah.
If we were 4 white guys, it'd be a lot worse.
A couple more. Ready? What do you obsess about?
What do I obsess about? I think just to be honest with you, it might sound a little bit cheesy or corny, but where this world's going, you know.
Like in terms of technology or in terms of...
Mate, I've got an 18-year-old daughter, you know. I just want to make sure that she gets the opportunities in life that we had and our parents had before us. And we're going through some really interesting times at the moment with technology change and AI coming through and, you know, all the uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I do obsess a little bit about, you know, trying to predict what that sort of looks like.
Do you think it is changing the next generation in terms of how they interact with each other? You know, just like we were talking about writing, right? Just the simple act of writing. People growing up are only probably writing their signature. There's no writing. You're doing everything on your phone. You're doing everything, even communicating. Everything's texting.
100%. I completely agree. Yeah, we're a device-first world now.
Yeah.
I actually had to go and get my driver's license renewed the other week, and I forgot how to do my signature for a second. Because it's all DocuSign and stuff now as well. Yeah.
I got one more new question that I've added. You're the first to get this question. If you had to choose someone for a tag team wrestling partner, who would you choose?
For a partner?
Yeah,
I was going to say.
tag team partner.
Oh, anyone?
Yeah,
okay,
anyone.
Like a famous person or whatever?
Yeah.
Give me John Jones from the UFC.
Yeah, oof.
Yeah.
That's heavy duty.
Yeah.
No one's walking out alive from that room.
Yeah, just leave him in there.
Yeah.
That's it for me, for my questions.
Nice.
Then we finish up with one last question, and we get curious about who you would actually bring to this table. So if you were to pick 3 people out of the history of humanity to bring to dinner, and those 3 people could be also part of your present life, who would those 3 people be and
Past
why?
or present.
Past or present.
Joe Rogan. I just think he's incredible, and ironically, you know, the greatest podcaster on earth right now. One of his buddies, Elon Musk, incredible. And I don't know why this comes to mind, but I'd love to have a chat with Jimi Hendrix. I reckon he'd be great.
Yeah.
Where do you think? Where do you think Elon Musk is going at the moment with what he's doing? You know, going from being
He's going to Mars.
But he's changed. You know, he's very on the. You know, he's chosen his side.
Yep.
He's chosen what he's doing. He's very.
Are you talking politics?
It's all or nothing.
I know we don't get into politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It is an all or nothing thing, right?
Yep.
He's basically tanking his business to go on this journey.
Yep. I think there's 2 reasons. I think that there is a genuine intention to better humanity. Absolutely. And you just need to look at his businesses and what they represent. And it's all in alignment with that. Yeah. And yes, it's coming at a bit of a cost right now.
And Tesla will come back because they still got AI.
Absolutely.
They've got a lot.
So, and he's a very, very smart businessman as well. And if the US goes down, which it's been heading down that path, $36 trillion debt, then his companies go down with it. So I think he's doing it from 2 perspectives, the humanity perspective, but also playing the long game, which is what business is all about, knowing that he's got to step in and do his part for the country to do his part for his businesses.
Well, Dan, I just want to say thanks for coming out to the show. I hope that our viewers see you in a different light, and I really appreciate your time on today's episode. You know, there was some genuine golden nuggets, you know, that you on passed to us, and you're a wealth of knowledge. And I trusted Pat when he said, mate, we just got to get this guy on the show. There's no ifs or buts, and I can see why, mate. So thank you.
And it wasn't maths related.
No, it was actually not maths related.
But thank you for, like you said, you haven't talked about maths before. So thank you for making our podcast the first time to talk about it, because it was great.
That's Ron trying to clout chase right there.
Clip it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. It's been great.
Thank you, mate. One last thing. If we get all our guests just to look into the camera and on 3 say, let's connect. Okay. And say 1, 2, 3.
Let's connect.
Let's go.
Thanks,
well done, Dan. Fucking killed it, bro. Well done.
We made this a free platform because we want to educate and add value to your business world. All we ask for as a payment is to hit the subscribe button and share it with people that you know would benefit from this conversation. If you want to elevate your connections, we'll see you at the next Connect MacArthur event.